My heart shattered in my own home, the walls I built with decades of sweat now mocking me. My son, my blood, slammed a contract on the table, his eyes blazing with greed. Sign it or lose everything. His wife's venomous laugh cut deeper than a knife, her words like acid. You're done, old man. Every sacrifice nights in war zones, years for them turned to ash. The pain was unbearable, a raw wound ripped open by betrayal. I gripped the table, rage choking my throat, but I wasn't broken yet. They'd set a trap. They'd regret it. I'm Thomas Sullivan. I'm 60 years old, and I'm a Canadian veteran who fights back. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from, whether it's somewhere beautiful in Canada or anywhere else in this amazing world. The rain battered my Halifax home, each drop a reminder of the storm brewing inside me. I'm Thomas Sullivan, a 60-year-old Canadian veteran who survived Afghanistan's deserts, only to face a war in my own family. My small transport business, built from nothing over 30 years, was my pride. Every truck, every contract, earned with grit. I gave everything to my son, Ethan. Paid his tuition at Dalhousie University, bought him a condo in downtown Halifax, even covered his wedding on the shores of Bedford Basin. But it was never enough. Ethan's eyes, once bright with dreams, now burned with greed. 2 weeks ago, he stormed into my living room, Laura at his side, her smile sharp as a blade. You're sitting on millions, Dad, Ethan snapped, pacing the hardwood floor. Hand it over. We need it to start our life. Laura leaned in, her voice smooth but venomous. You're not getting younger, Tom. Let us take the burden. Burden? My life's work? A burden? I gripped my coffee mug, the ceramic hot against my palm, my voice low. This business is mine. Earn your own way. Their faces darkened, and Ethan slammed his fist on the table. You'll regret this, he hissed, storming out. Laura lingered, her eyes scanning my home like a vulture. That night, I found an invitation slipped under my door, a family dinner at their condo, 5 kilometers away. Reconciliation, it said. But Maggie's photo on the mantel, her gentle smile frozen in time, warned me. This was no peace offering. It was a trap. The rain hadn't stopped, pounding the roof of my Halifax home like a drumbeat of betrayal. The invitation to Ethan and Laura's so-called family dinner sat on my kitchen counter, its crisp edges mocking me. Maggie's photo watched from the mantel, her smile a silent plea to protect what we'd built. I couldn't shake the venom in Laura's voice or the greed in Ethan's eyes from 2 weeks ago. My gut, honed by years in the Navy, screamed this wasn't reconciliation, it was a calculated move. I needed answers, and I knew who to call. David O'Connor, my old Navy buddy, was a private investigator now, working out of a gritty office 3 kilometers from downtown Halifax. His voice, rough as gravel, answered on the second ring. Tom, you sound like hell. What's up? I gripped my phone, the weight of my suspicions heavy. Ethan and Laura, they're after my business. Dig into them, Dave, I need the truth. The next evening, I met Dave at the Anchor, a dive bar for veterans near Point Pleasant Park. The air smelled of stale beer and sea salt, the jukebox humming a forgotten Stan Rogers tune. Dave slid into the booth, his leather jacket creaking, and dropped a manila envelope on the table. You're not gonna like this, he warned, his eyes sharp despite the bags beneath them. I tore open the envelope, my pulse hammering. Bank statements spilled out, showing Ethan's debts. 200,000 CAD in unpaid loans, cars he couldn't afford, a failed tech startup in Dartmouth. My jaw tightened. I'd bailed him out before 50,000 CAD for his first venture, another 30,000 for his condo down payment. I thought it was love. It was my blindness. Then came the real gut punch. Dave slid a photocopied contract across the table, its edges crisp. "This was filed last week at a law office on Barrington Street," he said. "A transfer of your transport business to Ethan's name. Look at the signature." My breath caught. It was my name, Thomas Sullivan, scrawled in black ink. But I hadn't signed it. The loops were too tight, the slant too sharp, nothing like my steady hand. "Laura's work," Dave said, leaning back. "She's been cozying up to a shady lawyer. They're planning to claim you're unfit, Tom, too old to run the business." My vision blurred, not from tears but from rage. My hands shook, crumpling the paper. "They forged my signature?" I growled, my voice low, dangerous. Dave nodded. "They're desperate. Laura's been spending like she's already got your millions. Designer bags, trips to Toronto, all on credit." I leaned back, the booth's vinyl squeaking under me. The bar's hum faded, replaced by the roar of blood in my ears. I'd faced ambushes in Afghanistan, but this betrayal cut deeper than any bullet. Maggie's words echoed from a letter she wrote before cancer took her. "Teach Ethan to stand tall, Tom." I'd failed her. I'd given him everything, my time, my money, my trust, and he'd sold me out. Laura, with her calculated smiles, was the puppet master, pulling Ethan's strings. I stared at the contract, the forged signature a wound in my chest. "What else you got?" I asked, my voice steady despite the fire inside. Dave pulled out a photo. Ethan and Laura at a Halifax yacht club, toasting with champagne they hadn't paid for. "They're living a lie," he said. "But I found something else. Laura's been emailing that lawyer about a fake medical report, says you're losing it, mentally unfit." "Oh." My fist hit the table, the beer mugs rattling. "They're calling me crazy?" I spat, loud enough to turn heads. Dave raised a hand, calming the room. "We've got them, Tom. These emails are evidence. But you need to move fast." I nodded, my mind racing. The anchor's neon sign flickered outside, casting shadows over the table. I slipped the contract and photo into my jacket, the weight grounding me. "Keep digging," I told Dave, standing. "I want every dirty secret." As I stepped into the rain, the waves of Bedford Basin crashed in the distance, mirroring the storm in my heart. Ethan and Laura thought they'd outsmarted a veteran. They were wrong. I'd fought for my country, and I'd fight for my legacy. The dinner was tomorrow. I'd walk into their trap, but I'd be ready. The rain had eased to a drizzle, but the storm inside me raged on. I drove back from the anchor, the Halifax streets slick under my tires, the forged contract from Dave O'Connor burning a hole in my jacket pocket. My home, 5 kilometers from the bar, felt like a battlefield now, not a sanctuary. I stepped inside, the silence heavy, broken only by the faint hum of the furnace. Maggie's photo on the mantel stared back, her eyes kind but piercing, as if she knew the weight of my failure. I sank into the armchair, the leather cold against my skin, and pulled out a wooden box from beneath the coffee table. Inside was a letter, its paper yellowed, Maggie's handwriting looping across the page. "Tom, you're my anchor," she'd written before the cancer won. "Teach Ethan to stand tall, to honor what we built." My throat tightened, a sob clawing its way up. I'd fought for Canada, faced death in Afghanistan, but nothing hurt like this. I'd given Ethan everything 100,000 CAD for his failed dreams, a condo, a life, and he'd forged my name to steal it all. The phone rang, shattering the quiet. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. I answered, my voice a low growl. "What do you want?" His laugh was sharp, cruel, nothing like the boy I'd raised. "You're slipping, Dad," he said, his words slurring as if he'd been drinking. "Holding on to that business like it's your life. You're too old to run it. Step aside, or we'll make you." My grip tightened, the phone creaking in my hand. "You think you can threaten me?" I spat. Laura's voice cut in, icy and smug. "It's not a threat, Tom. It's reality. You're a relic, clinging to a past nobody cares about." The line went dead, their words a knife twisting in my chest. I stared at Maggie's letter, her hopes for Ethan now ashes. I'd taught him to drive on these Nova Scotia roads, cheered at his hockey games in Dartmouth, believed he'd carry our name with pride. Instead, he'd spit on it. I stood, my legs heavy, and walked to the fireplace. Maggie's photo seemed to flicker in the dim light, her smile a quiet rebuke. I'd survived ambushes, IEDs, nights where the desert air smelled of blood, but this betrayal was a wound I couldn't stitch. My fingers traced the Navy crest on my shelf, its metal cold, a reminder of the honor I'd sworn to uphold. I'd failed Maggie, failed Ethan, failed myself. The dinner invitation sat on the counter, its words reconciliation mocking me. It was a trap, and I was walking into it, but not as a fool. I grabbed my phone and dialed Dave again. "It's Tom," I said, my voice steady despite the ache. "They just called, threatening me. What else you got?" Dave's tone was grim. "Laura's been digging into your medical records, Tom. They're building a case to declare you unfit. Found a doctor in Bedford willing to lie for 10,000 CAD. My blood boiled, my fist clenching. "They're calling me crazy?" I roared, my voice echoing off the walls. Dave stayed calm. "We've got their emails, Tom. They're sloppy. You want to hit back?" I paused, Maggie's letter in my other hand, her words a faint whisper. "Yeah," I said, my resolve hardening. "I want everything they've got." I set the letter down, my eyes lingering on Maggie's photo. The drizzle outside had stopped, but the waves of Bedford Basin crashed in the distance, their rhythm matching my pulse. Ethan and Laura thought they could break a veteran, strip me of my legacy like it was nothing. They didn't know me. I'd faced worse odds in Kandahar, lost brothers in arms, carried their memory through hell. This fight was personal, and I wasn't done. Tomorrow's dinner would be their reckoning, not mine. I slipped Maggie's letter into my pocket, its weight a promise to her. I'd protect what we'd built, no matter the cost. The Halifax dawn broke gray and heavy, the waves of Bedford Basin crashing like my resolve. Maggie's letter rested in my pocket, its words a fire in my chest. Teach Ethan to stand tall. I'd failed her once, but not again. Ethan and Laura's betrayal, the forged signature. Their plan to declare me unfit had pushed me to the edge. But I was a Canadian veteran, forged in the crucible of war, and I wouldn't break. I drove 7 kilometers to Claire McLean's law office on Spring Garden Road, the city waking around me. Claire, my lawyer and a friend from Maggie's hospital days, was a force sharp as a bayonet, her gray eyes cutting through nonsense. Her office smelled of coffee and old books, the view of Halifax's Citadel Hill framing her desk. I tossed Dave's envelope onto it, the forged contract and emails spilling out. "They're coming for everything," I said, my voice steady but raw. "We need to hit back." Claire scanned the documents, her pen tapping rhythmically. "They're sloppy, Tom," she said, a faint smile curling her lips. "This forgery's a felony, and their emails are a goldmine. We can bury them." She leaned forward, her tone crisp. "But we need to protect your business first. Transfer it to a veterans charity trust, lock it down before they file their claim." My jaw tightened, the idea of giving up my life's work stinging, but Maggie's voice echoed, "Protect what we built." "Do it," I said. "Make it ironclad." Claire nodded, pulling out a draft trust agreement. "This'll keep your transport company safe, and it'll help veterans across Nova Scotia. You okay with that?" I thought of my Navy brothers, The ones who never came home. It's what Maggie would have wanted, I replied, my throat tight. But defense wasn't enough. I wanted Ethan and Laura to feel the weight of their greed. What about hitting them where it hurts? I asked. Claire's smile turned lethal. Laura's obsessed with her image, Halifax elite, charity galas, all that. Leak their debts to the press. Let the city tear her apart. I nodded, my pulse quickening. Dave had sent more dirt overnight. Receipts showing Laura's 15,000 CAD shopping sprees at Mike Mack Mall, funded by loans Ethan couldn't repay. I opened my laptop. The screen's glow harsh in the dim office. Let's do it, I said, drafting an anonymous email to a Chronicle Herald reporter. Laura Bennett, living large on borrowed time. I typed, attaching Dave's receipts and a screenshot of Ethan's 200,000 CAD debt. My finger hovered over the send button, Maggie's letter heavy against my chest. I pressed send. Within hours, the story would spread across Halifax's social media, Laura's polished facade crumbling like sand. I left Claire's office, the morning air sharp with salt from the harbor. My phone buzzed Dave, checking in. "You sure about this, Tom?" he asked, his voice cautious. "Once it's out, there's no going back." I gripped the steering wheel, the Navy crest on my keychain glinting. "They declared war, Dave. I'm just fighting back." He chuckled. A rough sound. "That's the Tom I know. I've got more on Laura bank records showing she siphoned 5,000 CAD from a charity gala last year. Want me to send it?" My blood surged, a cold smile spreading. "Send it all," I said. "Let's see how she spins this." I parked near the Halifax waterfront, the boardwalk bustling with early joggers. My phone lit up with notifications. The Herald story was live, comments piling up. "Laura Bennett's a fraud," one read. "Shame on her," another. I pictured Laura in her condo, her perfect mask cracking as her phone buzzed with hate. Ethan would be pacing, his bravado fading. They'd invited me to their dinner tomorrow, thinking they'd corner me. But I was steps ahead, my plan taking shape like a battle strategy. The waves crashed against the pier, their rhythm steadying me. Maggie's letter felt lighter now, a guide rather than a rebuke. I'd protect my legacy, not just for me, but for every veteran who'd fought for honor. Ethan and Laura had underestimated me. Tomorrow, they'd learn what a Canadian veteran could do. The Halifax evening draped the city in a damp chill, the lights of Bedford Basin glinting like distant stars. I drove 5 kilometers to Ethan and Laura's condo, my hand steady on the wheel, Maggie's letter a quiet weight in my jacket. Their reconciliation dinner was a trap, but I wasn't the prey they expected. Claire McLean's plan was locked in, and Dave O'Connor's evidence-forged signatures, Laura's charity scam burned in my mind. I'd spent 30 years building my transport business, and they thought they could steal it with a pen and a smirk. Not today. I parked outside their sleek condo tower, its glass facade mocking the gritty Halifax I knew. My Navy crest keychain clinked as I stepped out, a reminder of the honor they'd tried to strip from me. Inside, the dining room glowed with false warmth, a chandelier casting shadows over a mahogany table. Ethan stood by a bar cart, pouring scotch, his tie loose, his smile forced. Laura sat poised, her red dress sharp against the cream walls, her nails tapping like a countdown. "Tom, you made it," she said, her voice syrupy, but her eyes betrayed her, a predator sizing up its mark. I took a seat, my face calm, my pulse steady. "Let's eat," I said, nodding at the spread of lobster and roasted vegetables, a maritime feast meant to soften me. Ethan slid a contract across the table, its pages crisp, the same forged signature Dave had uncovered glaring up at me. "Sign this, Dad," he said, his voice tight, almost pleading. It's for the family, your legacy. Legacy? The word stung, a mockery of everything I'd fought for. I leaned back, my chair creaking, and sipped my water, letting the silence stretch. Laura's smile faltered, her fingers tightening on her wine glass. "You're not eternal, Tom," she said, her tone sharp now. "This business is too big for you. Let us carry it forward." Her words echoed their phone call, calling me a relic, unfit. My chest tightened. Maggie's letter a faint pulse against my heart, but I kept my eyes locked on hers. "You think you can erase me?" I asked, my voice low, dangerous. Ethan shifted, his scotch trembling in his hand. "Don't make this hard," he muttered, glancing at Laura for support. She nodded, sliding another document forward, a medical report, stamped by a Bedford doctor, claiming I was mentally unfit. My blood boiled, the room shrinking to the thud of my heartbeat. I stood, my shadow long against the wall. "Funny thing," I said, my voice cutting through the tension. "I brought a guest." The condo door swung open, and Agent Reid of the RCMP stepped in, her navy blazer stark against the opulent room. Her boots clicked on the hardwood, each step a hammer blow. "Thomas Sullivan?" she asked, her voice cold, professional. I nodded. She turned to Ethan and Laura, dropping a folder on the table with a thud. "This is evidence of document forgery and fraud," she said, her eyes unyielding. "Forged signatures on a business transfer and 5,000 CAD siphoned from a veterans charity gala. These are felonies," Laura gasped, her wine glass slipping, red liquid pooling like blood on the tablecloth. Ethan's face drained of color, his mouth opening, but no words came. I met Sarah's gaze, a silent thanks passing between us. "You thought you'd trap me," I said, turning to Ethan, my voice steady but laced with fire. "You forged my name, called me crazy, and stole from veterans. My brothers." Ethan lurched forward, his voice cracking. "Dad, please, we didn't mean—" I cut him off, my hand raised. "You meant every word." Laura's composure shattered, her nails digging into the table. "This is a mistake," she hissed, but Sarah's presence silenced her. The agent flipped open the folder, revealing emails between Laura and her lawyer planning to declare me unfit. The chandelier's light caught Maggie's photo on a side table, her smile steady, approving. I'd walked into their trap, but I'd brought justice with me. The room felt smaller, the air thick with their panic. Sarah's voice was relentless. "You'll answer for this in court." Ethan sank into his chair, his hands shaking. Laura's eyes darted to the door, as if she could run from the truth. I stood tall, my Navy training grounding me. This was my first victory, but not my last. I nodded to Sarah and stepped toward the door, the Halifax rain starting again outside, its rhythm a war drum. Ethan and Laura had underestimated a veteran. They'd pay for it. The Halifax night was thick with mist, the city's pulse drowned by the crash of Bedford Basin's waves. I left Ethan in Laura's condo, Agent Reid's damning evidence still echoing in my ears, forged signatures, stolen charity funds, their lies laid bare. My victory at their so-called reconciliation dinner was only the beginning. Ethan's trembling hands and Laura's spilled wine were cracks in their facade, but I wanted their world to shatter. I drove 6 kilometers back to my Halifax home, Maggie's letter pressed against my chest, its words urging me forward, protect our legacy. The Chronicle Herald story about Laura's debts had lit a spark, but Dave O'Connor's latest find, a paper trail of Laura's deeper fraud, would set their lives ablaze. By morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Dave. "Check your email, Tom. Laura's done for." I opened my laptop in the dim light of my study, the glow casting shadows over Maggie's photo on the desk. Dave had uncovered bank records showing Laura had siphoned 20,000 CAD from a Halifax veterans charity, not just the 5,000 CAD from the gala I'd leaked. She'd funneled it through a shell company, masking it as donations for wounded soldiers. My blood boiled. As a veteran, I'd carried the weight of fallen comrades. Laura's theft was a betrayal of them too. I forwarded the records to Claire McLean, my voice shaking as I called her. "This ends now," I said. Claire's tone was steel. "I'm drafting a press release. The Herald will run this by noon. Laura's name will be mud in Halifax." I stepped onto my porch, the salty air sharp. Social media was already buzzing, the Herald's first story fueling outrage. I drafted another anonymous post, this time to a veterans group on Facebook. "Laura Bennett stole 20,000 CAD meant for veterans. Here's the proof." I attached Dave's bank records and hit send. Within minutes, comments exploded, veterans from Dartmouth to Bedford cursing Laura's name, demanding justice. One post read, "She spit on our service." Another shared a photo of Laura at a gala, her smile now a grotesque mask. I pictured her in their condo, her phone lighting up with notifications, her carefully curated image crumbling like a sandcastle against the tide. By afternoon, I drove to a cafe on the Halifax waterfront, 2 kilometers from my home, to meet Claire. The scent of espresso mixed with sea air, the boardwalk alive with tourists. Claire slid into the booth, her eyes glinting with purpose. "It's done," she said, showing me her phone. The Herald's new headline screamed, "Local socialite embroiled in veterans' charity fraud." Laura's face was plastered across it, her eyes hollow. "They're falling apart," Claire said, her voice low. "Ethan called my office, begging for a deal. Said he'll confess if we go easy." I leaned back, the booth creaking. "No deals," I said, my voice cold. "They stole from veterans. They answer to the law." My phone buzzed again, a video from Ethan, posted on Instagram. His face was gaunt, his voice desperate. "I'm sorry, Halifax," he stammered, tears streaking his cheeks. "We made mistakes. Please, give us a chance." I scoffed, my fingers tightening on the phone. "Mistakes? Forging my name, stealing from charity, calling me unfit, these weren't mistakes. They were choices." I glanced at Claire. "He's pathetic," I said. She nodded, her pen tapping. "Laura's worse. She's blaming Ethan, saying he dragged her into it." I pictured Laura in their condo, her nails clawing at her phone, dialing her lawyer in a panic. Her empire of lies was collapsing, and I'd lit the fuse. As I left the cafe, my phone lit up with a call from Dave. "Tom, it's bigger than we thought," he said, his voice urgent. "Laura tried to bribe a second doctor for another fake report, offered 15,000 CAD. I've got the email." My heart raced, a cold smile spreading. "Send it to Agent Reid," I said. "Let the RCMP bury them." The waterfront's waves roared, matching the fire in my veins. Ethan's video was drowning in comments. Fraud. Disgrace. Veterans rallied outside their condo, signs reading, "Justice for Vets." Laura's name was poisoned now, her socialite dreams crushed under the weight of truth. I stood by my car, the Halifax skyline sharp against the sky. Maggie's letter felt warm, her approval steadying me. Ethan and Laura had declared war, but I'd brought an army truth, justice, and the honor of every veteran. Their collapse was complete, but my fight wasn't over. The dinner had been their trap. This was their reckoning. The Halifax skyline glowed under a rare spring sun, the waves of Bedford Basin shimmering like a promise of peace. I stood on my porch, Maggie's letter folded in my pocket, its words now a beacon rather than a wound. Ethan and Laura's collapse was complete. Agent Reid's evidence at their dinner had cracked their lies, and the Chronicle Herald's expose on Laura's 20,000 CAD theft from a veterans charity had buried them. Social media raged, veterans protested outside their condo, and Ethan's tearful Instagram video only fueled Halifax's scorn. But their downfall didn't heal the ache in my chest. I'd fought for my country, built a transport business from nothing, and poured my heart into Ethan, only to watch him betray me. Yet, standing here, I felt a shift, a chance to rebuild, not for them, but for me. I drove 4 kilometers to Claire McLean's office on Spring Garden Road, the air crisp with the scent of blooming lilacs. Claire greeted me with a warm smile, her desk stacked with papers finalizing the trust for my business. "It's done, Tom," she said, sliding a document across. "Your company's safe in a veterans charity trust. It'll fund housing for soldiers across Nova Scotia, 50 units this year alone." My throat tightened, Maggie's voice echoing. "Protect what we built." This wasn't just my legacy. It was hers and every veteran's. "You did good," Claire added, her eyes soft. "They can't touch it now." I nodded, my fingers tracing the Navy crest on my keychain. "It's what Maggie would have wanted," I said, my voice steady but heavy with her memory. Back home, I sat at my desk, the study quiet except for the soft tick of a clock. I pulled out a blank sheet of paper, my pen heavy with purpose. I wrote a letter to young veterans, words flowing like the tides of Bedford Basin. "Honor is your anchor," I began. "Greed can tear families apart, but your service, your heart, is what lasts. Hold it close." I sealed the letter, addressing it to a Halifax Veterans Center, knowing it would reach those who needed it. Maggie's photo on the desk smiled, her eyes warm, approving. I'd failed Ethan, but I wouldn't fail them. My phone buzzed a news alert from the Herald. Ethan and Laura faced charges: forgery, fraud, and theft. The article detailed their court date, set for next month, with fines and potential jail time looming. I pictured Ethan in a sterile courtroom, his bravado gone, Laura's polished mask shattered. I felt no joy, only a quiet resolve. They'd chosen greed over family, and now they'd face the consequences. I swiped the alert away, the weight of their betrayal lifting. The sun streamed through my window, casting a golden glow over Maggie's photo. I stood, my boots heavy on the hardwood, and walked to the waterfront, 2 kilometers away. At the Halifax boardwalk, I met Claire for coffee, the sea air sharp and clean. Gulls wheeled overhead, their cries blending with the hum of the city. "You look lighter, Tom," Claire said, sipping her latte. I chuckled, a sound I hadn't heard in months. "I feel it," I replied. "They took a lot, but not my honor." She nodded, her smile infectious. "You're giving back to veterans. That's a legacy Ethan and Laura can't touch." We sat in silence, the waves a steady rhythm. I pulled Maggie's letter from my pocket, its edges worn but warm. "She'd be proud," I said, my voice soft. Claire's hand rested on my arm, steady and warm. "She is, Tom." I walked along the boardwalk alone, the sun dipping low, painting the sky in pinks and oranges. The pain of Ethan's betrayal, Laura's venom, lingered like a scar, but it no longer defined me. I'd fought for my country, for Maggie, for myself. Now, I was fighting for every veteran who'd stood tall, who'd faced their own battles. My letter to them was a promise. Live with honor, and no one can steal your worth. The waves crashed, their rhythm a heartbeat of peace. I looked out at Bedford Basin, the horizon vast and open. For the first time in years, I felt whole, ready to write the next chapter not of pain, but of purpose. The Halifax sunset painted Bedford Basin in hues of amber and violet, the waves whispering peace against the shore. I stood on the boardwalk, 2 kilometers from my home, Maggie's letter tucked close to my heart. Her words, once a wound, now felt like a lighthouse guiding me through the storm of Ethan and Laura's betrayal. I'd faced their greed-forged signatures, stolen charity funds, lies that cut deeper than any war I'd fought in Afghanistan. But I'd won, not with anger, but with honor. My transport business, built over 30 years, was safe in a veteran's trust, giving hope to soldiers who'd faced their own battles. Ethan and Laura faced justice, their lies exposed, their world in ruins. Yet, standing here, I didn't feel triumph, only clarity. Honor is the anchor that holds us steady, no matter the cost. I looked out at the horizon, the Halifax skyline, a testament to resilience. This fight wasn't just mine. It was for every veteran, every family torn by greed. Maggie taught me that, and I carry her lesson forward. If betrayal has ever scarred your heart, know this: your honor is your strength. I turned to the camera, my voice low, steady. I'm Thomas Sullivan, a Canadian veteran. If this story moved you, share yours in the comments. Have you faced betrayal? What kept you strong? Hit that like button if you believe in fighting for what's right. And subscribe to Maple Revenge. We're telling stories of truth and resilience, stories like mine. The waves crashed softly, the sky deepening to dusk. I stepped forward, my boots firm on the boardwalk. The fight was over, but my purpose was just beginning. Honor endures, always,